Hi everyone. I'm ready to start building the window trim for my skylight on #1 tiny. Okay, it's ready. It's time to start the steaming. These are the pieces that I've been soaking. They're penetrated just about all the way through. That's important to have plenty of moisture in your wood. Very thin pieces don't need to soak so much because the steam can get to the center. It does have to be hot all the way through, and it does have to be wet all the way through for the bend to work. Particularly true with fur. This fur, especially kiln-dried material, is not a good bending material, but I don't have a tough radius to make. So, get the lid on it, come back in an hour. So now I'm going to build a form for bending. I need to mark a radius, and it's a long radius. You don't have they don't make a compass that big. Instead, they give you Dremel points. Clamp on a stick and adjust the radius like this. The pivot tip does tend to bounce out when you're trying to do it, so I like to tap it in a little bit. And I'm drawing a mark on here. You see a mark already, but that was just to check it. So this is the real mark right there. I don't need to change this. All I need to do is add to it. To do that, I got to make a bunch of little walls to step around here. That's next. The miter saw is a perfectly good tool for this. A little unusual because I'm making really short blocks. So this is a safe way to cut something. That's not safe to hold that there, and it's not safe to leave it loose. We've got this spacer that lets you cut less than 10 inches. The scale ends at 10 inches. So you can't really hold that safely. But what you can do instead, not trap it. If it's trapped, it bounces around in there. Not trap it, just use it to set it and ease it out, and then cut it left-handed. That's the first block. Set, remove, cut. So these are some of the blocks I made. They're going to need to line up to that line to define a three-dimensional arc. And we got to screw them down. That could be problematic. You can't screw all the way through this, not very easily. You can't line it up screwing from the other side. Somebody came up with a tool called a pocket hole jig. And Craig's jig is a very popular one. That's branding. Most people just call it a Craig's jig. And I'll show you that next. This is a jig. You clamp a piece of wood into it. It's got indexes to control where the hole goes, and you drill a hole right in the edge of the face. And in this case, we'll drill a second one, so it won't swing after we screw it down. Just a little bit arbitrary where you put them, but you can see these holes. They actually come out the center. So you can just, from the top, screw it down anywhere you want. And the screws are designed to drill themselves into the thing you're screwing it onto. Real good time saver, especially when you got a complex arrangement. So I'm going to drill a bunch of these, and then I'll screw them all on. Okay, now it's a simple matter of screwing it down to the mark. There's a secondary hole in the bottom there that this needs to go into. Now, it's a good idea to actually deliberately slide them into that hole, or you may end up driving it through solid wood in this thing. So I put it to the line. And drive them down. You need one of these long bits, because if you've got a short bit, like I usually have, the body of it will keep it at the wrong angle. And you will not work well. If a screw is at an angle on a Phillips head screw, it spins in the hole of the screw instead of driving the screw down. So you need to equip yourself with one of these. You can get them with the kit, but they're for square drive, and we don't use square drive. So here we go. I can run them. Now I'm going to add a little piece of plywood to give it a fair and continuous curve. Add a little glue as I'm just stapling it. Kapow! Kaboo! Kaslammy! Kapow! Ready for the bend. You put on these hot gloves. Steam is very hot. You definitely want to have everything ready because you don't have a lot of time. That's because it only stays flexible as long as it's hot. I might be so bold as to see if I can bend up all four at once. Might be learning the hard way, but I'm trying it. Looks good. I feel it right through the gloves. These are not the best kind of gloves. Maybe welder's gloves. That's it. After the parts are cooled, we unclamp them, check them out, and then we set them aside to dry for at least overnight. Okay, it's the next day. They've had plenty of time to dry out, and we're going to glue these together back into the same shape. What happens is you do get some spring back. You can see how it misses it here. But it makes it possible to bend them the rest of the way because they're close. And so you can glue it together. Once it's glued along that center line, there will be a reduced amount of spring back from the glue up. Now the reality is, were I to try to just steam bend, which would be less operations, something this thick, it would take 4 times the force to make it bend. You take something and make it twice as thick or twice as tall, you make it 4 times as rigid. So that's the reason, one of the reasons I did this combination of one step to pre-bend laminations and then the lamination step. I actually cut this one board and then matched them back to each other so you will not see grain changes or color changes between them. It's a little trick. It made steaming it much more reasonable proposition. You need a very heavy-duty setup to actually bend it. And you're more likely to crack it because it's bigger. So we apply glue with a roller. very fast, and a very important thing is it makes the glue come out even. You need enough glue, and if you've got thick spots and thin spots, the thinnest spot still has to have enough glue. Therefore, the thick spots have more glue than they need. So once you have a sense, which won't translate, I think, over a video, you have to be shown for how much glue to apply, you can put it on with a roller. And then you make several passes over it to make it more even. Now I'm going to glue up both of these. We have two curved trim pieces in one step. The radius will be slightly different, but these actually are trim. So they don't have to be exact, just close enough that it's possible to finish bending it all the way into place and then nail it. So trim doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You can usually bend it down and nail it. But these pieces were going to crack. That one that's as thick as two of these together absolutely was not going to make that bend. So this is why I'm doing it. All these steps. Okay, once again. Okay, now ready for clamping. Careful not to get any glue between them, or they'll have to pry them apart. Best to start in the middle. If I clamp the ends, I'm going to have a little bubble in the middle. And when I clamp that, it's going to be wavy like this, wherever any clamp goes. So you start in the middle and let it fare itself out toward the ends. Oops. I have to fess up. I forgot to put the stiffener on. This helps distribute the pressure between the clamps because it's fairly stiff. Okay, try that one more time. You usually only need to leave yellow glue, aliphatic resin glue, for half an hour if the temperature, humidity are typical spring, late summer, or summertime temperatures. With the bend on here, I'm going to leave it for 1 hour, and then I'll unclamp it and I'll leave them sprung into a longer clamp to finish drying. Almost no spring back. Great. The safest tool to cut this piece to width with is the bandsaw. Now notice that I am keeping the point of contact between the wood and the table right at the blade. If you let that come up in the air, you can slap it down pretty hard.